Hi, this is Michael Kipp. Welcome to the next ANVIL video. Let me just start it. So in this video I want to show you all the track types that ANVIL has to offer. We talked about this briefly in tutorial 2. So I have the tip here. Actually, I can skip through a number of tips. I can recommend reading those tips to speed up your coding. But of course you can also deactivate it so that it doesn't bother you every time you load something new. So let me just load a video first, and then ANVIL, if I say open a video, ANVIL will automatically ask me to select a specification, okay, or what is sometimes called a coding scheme. And now I'm in the directory where we have all the different example files that come with the ANVIL distribution, and I would ask you to open tracktypes.xml because this specification is there to showcase all the different track types that ANVIL has to offer. So ANVIL loads my video, and what you can see down here, and let me hit plus a few times so we have a little bit more granularity. What you see here are a number of different tracks, and each track has a different type. And by the way, the track type is also given here in this window. You see here track brackets primary, so it's a primary track, and then it's the name. And so this is of type primary point, this is of type Singleton, and I also gave the name to the track. So the track called Singleton is actually of type Singleton, and this is of type span, and this is of type Subdivision. Okay, so what are these tracks? So this is a group, by the way. Double click and you can collapse it. And oh, one other thing, if you have a track called point in the group base types, then actually the name of this track is not point, but it's, as you can see here, base types dot point. So it's a dot notation that you probably know as a programmer. So the group name comes before the track name. The track span here is not called span, but it's completely called secondary types dot span. That's the full name of the track, okay? Just to make sure if you have many groups and many tracks that you can uniquely refer to your tracks, okay? So what's a primary track? Quite easy. A primary track is what you expect. You can add elements, and those elements are anchored in time. So let me check out what this is. Okay, so it's just you have a single attribute. So you have a start time and an end time for every element, and you can see this here, right? Now, what is a point track? A point track contains elements that are not intervals, but that are single points, because sometimes you are just interested in one time point, maybe when an event starts, or maybe you annotate, the most energetic phase of a gesture. That's a time point. It doesn't have a start and end. So you can annotate this by just saying create or hitting 2 or F2. And what ANVIL does is it will show you a marker where the element is located, okay, and it's just one frame, okay, and but you can also annotate it, so you can give data to it, and this data will appear next to the element, okay. So let me annotate this one here. So you see, and you even have color coding. You see this one is blue and this one is yellow. Okay, so this is how point type elements look like, or it's called primary point. Okay, on the next track, it's a singleton track. A singleton track is a track which refers to one other track. In this case, it refers to, you see it here, reference track is base types dot primary. So it actually refers to those things here. So I can only annotate regions where there is an element on the track called primary, okay? So here I cannot annotate anything. You see no pink ghosting. If I create a new element here, or some new elements here, then all of a sudden I can also create elements here, and I just hit 2 or F2, and these elements depend on one single element on the referenced track. And if I modify this this element that this one depends on, let's say I cut it, make this a new endpoint, then as you can see, the dependent element is also automatically modified. Okay, so this is a singleton. It's a one-to-one relationship between elements. A span is a track where you can span multiple elements in another track. Okay, let's see which track this track span refers to. Look here, reference track is secondary types dot singleton. Okay, so it actually refers to those elements here. So I can connect those two, for instance, by placing the start line here and spanning the two. Okay, so now I create a new element here, you know, call it something. Okay, and I cannot annotate anything else. Okay, I depend on this track here, right? And again, if this element changes, this one will change too. Okay, but this one changes only if that one changes. So let's modify the upper one, cut it, you know, make it a little bit shorter up front, make this a new start point, and look at those two other elements. You see, this one changed because this one was cut, this one changed because this one was cut. And so you can build some nice relationships between the different tracks. Okay, so what is a subdivision track? A subdivision track is a bit like a span track, just the other way around. So a span track actually is used to tie together elements of a different track. So let's say, you know, let's say these are words, and then on the span track, you know, say maybe it's a sentence. Okay, it consists of various words. Okay, but how if we want to do it the other way around? So let's say this is a sentence here, and I want to split it up into words. Then I can use a subdivision relationship. Okay, a subdivision track. What track does it depend on? Depends on the span track here. So I can create an element here with hitting 2 or F2. And so now I can break this up. Actually, I can subdivide it. That's why it's called subdivision. I can subdivide it, and you see something like a membrane here. It's a subdivision of this big element. And the nice thing is the subdivisions here are completely autonomous elements in their own right, which can be edited. You know, I can give them something, some information. You know, just as with any other element, I can give a comment to them. I can play back this particular sub-element, and you know, they just internally they work just like one like this element, or like a point element. Okay, so you have those 5 track types, and you can also, you know, look this up in the documentation, in the online documentation. You will find here coding basics, how to annotate, and here track types. Okay, and then you can read some more. So let's have a look at the specification file that lies underneath this annotation file. And so we're in a specification file. You know, it's this very one. It's called track types, and we only look at the body. So here's the first track, and it's called primary. You know, that's the name here, and the type is also it's a primary type. It has a single attribute specified like so. And here's the next track. It's the point track. So the type is primary point, and there's a single attribute. Both are part of the group base types. You know, this nice feature that lets me collapse the 2 tracks, and it's very easy to implement groups. You basically just bracket all the tracks that are supposed to be in one group by a tag called group, right? Which has a name. That's all. Okay, let's go to the next group, because here we have this singleton track, and this has a referenced track, which is this one. Okay, and this is reflected in the specification by this attribute here. It's called ref, and in ref you have to say which track does this refer to, and it's a track called base types dot primary. You know, remember since this track is contained in the group base types, I have to prefix the name primary with the name of the group and then put a dot in between. Only has one attribute. And then you see, then you see two more track specifications which correspond to those tracks. Okay, pretty much straightforward. Okay, that's it for today. See you in the next video.